No, that's his thing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Tonight, our guests are Uncle Earl Holt, and his wife, Dr. Sherri. Uncle Earl is a double lung transplant recipient, author. They are minority organ donor advocates. Dr. Sherri has to begin a new not-for-profit, and Earl runs a sports card comic book store where you can also purchase his book. I will be sharing the links to these things during the course of the broadcast. And also, as you know, if you go to Uncle Jim's Facebook page, that's Jim Myers, Myers, pinned at the top of the page is the broadcast. In the comments to the broadcast is everything we're going to talk about tonight, all the links to all the things, just in case they stream by too quickly. So this is a first for our broadcast because we're discussing a double lung transplant tonight. Uncle Earl's story begins in 2010 when he got up one morning and felt strange. Couldn't breathe, couldn't catch his breath. He sought medical attention and was diagnosed with the rare lung disease called BOOP, capital B-O-O-P. I'm going to mispronounce this. Bronchiolitis obliterans while organizing pneumonia. Miss Sherri's going to straighten me out about that later. As a normal, active, healthy guy, suddenly he was placed on oxygen and told he would need a double lung transplant. Without the transplant, the doctors told him, quote unquote, he would not make it for a period of 2 months. The transition from an active to a guy to an invalid scared both Earl and his wife. Sherri said, quote, he was a very healthy, active person. Then to get to the point that you basically can't do much of anything that you used to do, you're basically helpless, unquote. Earl and Sherri began their wait for their miracle. In the meantime, they discovered that there are more than 100,000 people waiting on the organ transplant list for their miracle. And more importantly, 60% of those folks represent racial or ethnic minorities, all waiting for organ transplant. Specifically, Afro-Americans with high rates of high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease were disproportionately affected. These conditions not only contributed to organ failure, but they were actively preventing people, specifically minorities, from obtaining organ transplants. So this is something that the Holts want to make sure that we raise awareness about. Because of all of the pressure, initially Earl resisted getting evaluated for a transplant. Quote, I was just scared and it almost cost me my life, unquote. He was terrified. That's why he waited. Eventually, he was finally convinced by his loving wife and family to go forward. The Holts learned that the donor needed to be not only the same blood type, but also about the same height and weight as Earl, and at 6'5". This gave Earl some very limited options for a donor. Their miracle came in 2015 when a match was found. Uncle Earl had his double lung transplant on May 12, 2015 at the University of Maryland Medical Center, abbreviated capital UMMC. Subsequent to the transplant, Earl and Sherri have frequently shared Earl's story in print, in person, and on video. Earl has written a book called Uncle Earl, a double lung transplant recipient story of survival. Here, let me grab my copy real quick so I can show you. Uncle Earl was kind enough to sign this for me. Thank you, Uncle Earl.
Okay.
It's a great book, folks. Buy it and read it. At the same time, Sherri has started a not-for-profit called Begin Anew. Quote, we provide traditional and non-traditional education to eliminate social and health disparities that exist in the underprivileged and marginalized community. Unquote. They both attended the Transplant Games in 2024. As I said earlier, links will be provided during the broadcast where you can buy the book, where you can find the NFP. You can even get some sports cards or a comic book if you wish. They'll be provided through the banners that are crossing. And also, again, if you go to my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, the broadcast is pinned to the top of the page. Go to the comments. All of my research is in the comments, including those links. So you can find the links where you can buy the book and the not-for-profit. Please give a warm welcome to two incredible advocates for minority organ donation. Uncle Earl Holt and his wife, Dr. Sherri, are here. Hey, how are we doing tonight, folks?
Doing great.
Doing great.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great.
Did I state everything correctly in the introduction? Is there anything we need to clean up?
Sounds good.
Everything, yep, sounds right to me.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's start with Earl. Please tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your education and employment experiences.
Well, I grew up in East Baltimore, and I went to Baltimore City Public Schools, and from there I had joined the police department, but then after that I left to go to another job, and I've been at the job for quite a while before they closed up.
All right. How long have you been running the online sports cards and comic book store?
Oh, since I had my transplant, but I've been collecting books and cards during the time before before I got sick. But I started getting printed online is when after I got my lung transplant along with my books.
Okay. And I understand that you can find this location at uncleearl.com.
Yes, with the K.
With a K, right. I'm going to ask you about that a little later. Ms. Sherri, please tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your education, and your employment experiences.
I grew up in Baltimore, East Baltimore, 1900 block of Patterson Park Avenue. Graduated from Lake Clifton Senior High School. Received my undergraduate degree in business from Johns Hopkins University. My graduate degree from Johns Hopkins University also in education, along with certificates in school administration and technology and leadership. And I received my doctorate degree from Morgan State University. But I graduated magna cum laude, but I'm still that girl from around the way.
Oh my, you're a lot smarter than I am, magna cum laude. That's special. And I understand you're the executive director and founder of Begin Anew. It's a not-for-profit.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Earl, let's talk about your family. How long have you been married to Sherri?
Oh, 40-something years. About 44 years.
Okay. Do you have any children, grandchildren?
Yes, we have two children, but no grandkids.
We have 2 adult sons. No.
Okay, that's Keith and Earl III?
Yes.
All right. Sherri, tell us a little bit about when you met. Approximately when was that?
In high school. Earl went to my senior prom with me at Lake Clifton Senior High School, and we've been connected and basically together ever since. So.
Wow. I never asked the men this, but I'll ask the wife. What was the date that you were married?
December the 8th.
And Earl tells me you've been married 47 years. Is that correct?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We'll get there.
Married at 79.
All right. Earl, talk to us a little bit about when your illness began. I read that the problem started in 2010. You got up one morning and suddenly you couldn't breathe or catch your breath. Tell us what happened.
I don't know what happened. It's just a BOOP is a rare disease that after I found out. It's like maybe 1 in 100,000 people will get it. But I noticed that when I couldn't breathe, I saw a doctor. That doctor, and they thought it was pneumonia, just a simple cold. So they gave you medicine and tell you go home and rest. But eventually it started getting worse going through the years. And then eventually I had to be put on oxygen like in 2011, on and off, on and off. But then like around about 2012, 2013, I started needing more and more. And I couldn't even leave the house because the more liters I went on oxygen, the faster my tank got empty. So I most of the time I had to stay around the house to use my home base oxygen.
Okay. I'm looking at my notes. I understand that initially you thought you had the flu. You bought cough drops and cough syrup, took flu meds. That went on for about 2 weeks, but you didn't get better.
No. Go ahead.
And you have a dog, Bubba. You had trouble walking the dog. Is that right?
Yes.
And wheezing. I see where you saw your primary care physician twice. He said that you had a touch of pneumonia, gave you some antibiotics, didn't help.
Nope.
You ended up being admitted in the hospital. They gave you Bactrim. You had an allergic reaction to that only made things worse.
Yes.
Okay. You saw a specialist. They sent you home with a portable oxygen. That didn't help. You ended up going to another hospital, Good Samaritan Hospital. This is where you were diagnosed with BOOP. Miss Sherri, how do you pronounce the name of that disease again?
Bronchial organizing obliterate pneumonia.
Okay, thank you. And I understand that the cause for that is not known, and they placed you on high doses of prednisone. That helped a little bit. They let you go. But you were having problems after you got home. You lost appetite, weight, difficulty swallowing, drooling. You actually had some acupuncture at one point. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And lots of side effects from the prednisone: weight gain, risk of infection increase, joint pain, mood changes, insomnia, depression, anxiety. God, this sounds like kidney patients to me. Movement limited. And this went on. This was not a short period of time, right? This went on for many years.
Yes, it has.
Okay. Approximately how long?
Well, by the time I got the diagnosis for my disease to when I received, I say 4 years. It was going on for 4, 5 years. First, I started off with a low amount of oxygen, certainly like maybe 1 liter, 2 liter. I could have managed that, but then when going up through the years, my oxygen had to be increased. So I was all the way up to like 18 liters of oxygen, and that would make my tank empty like in 15 to 20 minutes. So I had to stay home where the home-based oxygen was. I couldn't go nowhere. I was just home.
Okay. Sherri, what was your reaction to all these symptoms and problems that your husband was having?
Well, at first, like you said, we thought it was just a simple flu. Then they thought it was a touch of pneumonia. But as you stated and Earl has stated, it didn't get any better. So he had to keep going back and forth to the hospital, and they put him on Bactrim, which he was allergic to. And then eventually they found out through the stages going back and forth that he did have a rare disease called BOOP. The reaction was, it was very stressful during that time because you don't know what you have. You know you're sick, but you don't know, what's causing this illness. So when they finally was able to come to the conclusion of what it actually was, at least they could work on trying to find a cure.
Wow.
Earl's case was
Yes, it had gotten too far. The scar tissue that scarred my lungs. I had scarring in my lungs because of the Bactrim stuff I was taking. They didn't have the diagnosis of yet what boot really was. And at that time, it just eventually I just scarred my lungs, and that required me to have a lung transplant.
Okay. And Sherri, you were acting as Earl's caretaker at the time?
yeah, I did take that role as caregiver, because as he stated, he became very sick. He needed help. And one of the aspects of even being on the organ donation list for transplant is you have to have a caregiver. But I took on the role as he became sick, and I did try my best to help as much as I could, and to give him that inspiration and motivation to continue, to not give up.
Okay. Earl, talk to us about the advice that the doctors gave you about transplant. What was your reaction to being told that without a double lung transplant, you probably wouldn't last 2 months?
Oh, it was like they putting a knife in me when he told me I needed a lung transplant, because then all I could do is just. 'Cause I was in the hospital when he told me this, because I was on I couldn't even leave the hospital because I was on oxygen 24 hours a day. So when he came in and he told me that without a lung transplant, I wouldn't make 2 months. So all I had to do, I ain't hear nothing else he said. All I did just looked at the clock on the wall, watching the seconds, the minutes, and the hours go by, and I just wanted to go home and whatever happened to be with my family until the end. But thanks to my wife and my sons and the doctors that I had, which was very nice, they persuaded me to stay in the hospital and to go for like that. And by that time, I was in the hospital, and which was quite a while. They just told me that. Then they came and told me that I needed a double lung transplant, and I just didn't know what to do. I was scared because I didn't know nobody who had a lung transplant or had any type of transplant.
Wow. Sherri, I was reading in the book that the research that you guys did, you learned that with organ transplants, there are about 100,000 people on the organ transplant wait list, and 60% of those represent racial or ethnic minorities, or primarily Afro-Americans, with high rates of high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease. Did Earl suffer from any of these conditions? Did he have high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease?
No, he did not. No, he did not. He was relatively healthy, exercised.
Walking, running,
Yeah.
playing sports, and man, it just hit me.
Yeah. Once he got the symptoms, once he started getting ill, but no, he did not suffer from high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease.
Excellent. Earl, I understand at first that you resisted getting evaluated for transplant. Can you tell us why you were resisting?
Yes, because I didn't have knowledge of it, and plus, I would just fear of just laying there with chest open and they taking out my lungs, the diseased lungs, to replace with another set of lungs, and that would fear me about getting that type of surgery. And by doing that, it started getting worse. My organs started to, starting to shut down, and I didn't know what else to do. That's why I was just scared. I was just scared. I didn't know about it, and I just would think about just laying down with my chest open and then taking out my lung, putting in the new lungs, and the donor lung, and that's what scared me, and that what kept me from getting the lung transplant.
Okay. How long a period of time did you resist? You mentioned this almost cost you your life.
Yes, I resisted since after I took all the tests that you had to take, like the EKGs and colonoscopies and the liver and kidney and all that test, just to make sure I was strong enough to get it. And I say that was like 2013, I believe, between 2012 and 2013.
Okay. Now, as a guy that was married himself for a while, and I know all the married men out there are going to relate to this. I understand that you might have been given the either or speech at one point in time concerning getting a evaluation for transplant. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I fought long as I could. I had my wife and my sons and friends, and they kept telling me, go through the lung transplant, go get the test, because at that time it wasn't on the list. They were telling me, go get the test, and I kept refusing them because I kept going hospital to hospital to hospital, hoping that I didn't need the lungs transplant. But I don't persuade me. And one day my wife just said, some voice came to her ear. I guess he was cooking or come out the bathroom or whatever. And she said, my chance of survival was through a lung transplant. So that's how I went and got it, just by don't persuade me to go get it. And by her saying that thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
because I often pray for a miracle.
Yes.
And we have been praying and hoping for a miracle. And as Earl stated, one day while I was taking my shower, it was like a voice that came out of nowhere and it said, the miracle is the transplant. And I talked to Earl about that. I told him I believe the miracle is the transplant. It was a very emotional time for both of us. And to let him know, and we see now that the miracle was the transplant.
okay. Sherri, I read that the complications that Earl had to overcome to get a transplant, these were not small things, that he needed 2 lungs, that the donor needed to be the same blood type, and also the donor needed to be the same height and weight as Earl for the transplant to work. And Earl's told me that he's 6'5". Did you have any concerns about finding a match for Earl?
Well, most definitely, especially since, as you stated, the ramification, the person had to be at least 6'5", same blood type, and that was a concern because that put a lot of limits and constrictions on whether he would be able to have a donor or the doctors would find a donor in time. So we were very worried about what he was given that time of 2 months. Would he finally have a donor in that length of time to save his life? So yes, definitely concerned and definitely worried. So
Okay. Earl, talk to us, even after you were listed and after they advised you of these things that you would have to overcome. I understand that there was definitely some fear and anxiety while you were waiting for the call. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I was hoping for no call because I was scared. I was putting up long as I could. So I was scared of the land I put up, but by me just waiting and waiting, I was hoping that it'd be some other way so I wouldn't have to go through the transplant. And that my anxiety was just hoping something else could be done besides going through this transplant.
yeah, he was in the hospital
Yes.
when he got the notification that
I
a
needed
donor had been found.
Wow. Okay. How long were you listed before a match was found for you?
I was listed like maybe I was blessed, and because it took me like 3 months before they found one for me. Because I was put in the hospital in January, and around about March, they told me that they had 2 lungs for me.
Okay.
Now, but I got no, I'm to May. I'm sorry, because then that's when they told me they had a double lung for me in May. I was in hospital from January to April, back and forth.
Okay. I understand that your transplant took place May 12th, 2015 at the Maryland Medical Center Heart and Lung Transplant Center. What
University.
was that day like for you, Earl?
Huh? Couldn't hear you.
What was the day of your transplant like?
Ooh.
What did they do for you?
Well, I had took all the tests and everything, but so when they just told me, they just told me that they had lungs for me. So after that, they took me into the room to do whatever they had to do. After that, I don't before that. After that, I don't know what happened. I was I was out, and by me waiting so long, I had long hospital stays. Now, like maybe 4 or 5 months, then I had to go to rehabilitation to learn to walk and all that because that came because of me waiting, of being scared. And that made me work hard because I heard that some people who get a transplant, I don't know about you, but some people get a transplant like kidneys or something, they can be out within 10 to 2 weeks. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I heard from the source. Some people. So, but maybe
Right.
hospital.
In my case, Earl, when I got my transplant, I was down at IU Health maybe 5 days after.
That's what I was saying. And say I was in hospital 6, 7 months. Then I went to rehabilitation for about another 6 months. All because I waited. So that's why I wanted to educate other people about transplant that don't wait. If you need it and you can get one, go for it. Don't hesitate. And that's what my book is about. Try to educate everybody about transplant or who want to know about transplantation.
All right. Sherri, my notes are telling me that when Earl was transplanted, he was connected to a heart bypass machine. He went through biopsies, x-rays, scanning. Initially, the organ rejected. He had an extended stay in the ICU. His kidney shut down. He was placed on dialysis. I can identify with this. He was placed on dialysis for a short period of time. He suffered setbacks, infections, was reintubated, put back on a ventilator, and finally placed on step-down unit and off dialysis. How did you feel about all that? What was your reaction?
It was rough time. Um, Earl was again. He was placed on dialysis. Had many setbacks, infections. Had to be reintubated. It was a time, I'll say this, where I had a lot of talks with God. During that time, Earl was intubated, so I had to basically be his advocate. I had to make many decisions, and just hope and pray that I was doing the right thing. It was a very hard time. It was a stressful time. It was a lonely time. But I tried to stay my best to stay strong for him because I knew when I would go see him every day, he was fighting. He was fighting for his life. And so therefore I was standing right beside him to make sure that he could go on.
Okay. And Earl, you told us you were hospitalized after transplant and in rehabilitation for, I think you said a couple of months.
Maybe about 4 months, yes, 4 to 5 months rehabilitation.
All right. And the people that were taking care of you, that's how you got the K in your nickname, Uncle Earl. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, this happened at University of Maryland Medical Center, and I must have I had the best doctors there was because
Definitely.
they'd come and talk to me after the transplant, and I had nurses that come in and talk with me for a little while, and they were just so nice, and they never gave up on me either. They were just there for me. If they just come by, they talk to me. Even the head doctor who did the surgery stops in every now and then and talk to me. But now they're not at University of Maryland no more. They like at different state hospitals. But I think I had the best doctors because and the Uncle Earl came from one nurse who came in and said, "You know what? You remind me of my uncle." And I said, "Oh yeah." She said, "Yes." And that what made me make the name Uncle Earl because from then on, not just her, but most of the nurses that come in or doctors that come in always said Uncle Earl. So the word must have gotten around from this one nurse. And so I say, since the kindness that they gave me, I took the C out of Uncle and put the K in. So to let them know that the kindness that they gave to me is in my book.
Okay. The nurse's name that I have that was referring to you as Uncle Earl, would that have been Melissa McGlendon?
Melissa was one of the nurses. She would come in a lot. And I got to give a shout out to Melissa. She's just the best, you know.
Yes.
She would come in and sing "You Are My Sunshine" every morning, and when all the nurses, the doctors, they were just so great.
Yes.
And if I can, I'll just name them. I mean, Dr. Pham,
Yeah, Dr. Pham, Dr. Hakona, Dr. Timothy, Dr. Kim,
Dr. Sanchez.
Dr. Sanchez. It's all of them took time. And Dr. Sanchez always told me, when I get better, that he'll treat me to a steak dinner if I can beat him in a race. And we never got to that race because I guess he left to go to another hospital. But that's how much fun they had, and that kept me going too, because of how kind they was to me. Ain't no fussing. They didn't put me aside or ignore my complaints or anything. They always took care of me. Even the head nurse always called and say, "How you doing, Uncle Earl?" And I say, "Oh, okay." And she hollered that over the microphone. So I just said, that kept me going. That made me happy. Very happy while I was in the hospital.
Yeah, and they became
wonderful,
like family. And that support really helped to keep us going.
Yeah.
And we still stay in contact with them to this day.
Yeah, because that's what I know. The surgeon wrote the foreword in my book, and who did the surgery, and the rest of the doctors in the back were my pulmonologists and other doctors that gave testimonies to me.
Yeah, along with Melissa.
Along with Melissa, her name, she's in there too.
Definitely.
I noticed in your book there, near the end, the dedications to all the people that were taking care of you and your family members.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a wonderful part of your writing.
Yes.
Sherri, talk to us a little bit about taking care of Earl and what his condition was like after he went home. How long was it before he was back to his normal self?
Well, after he stayed in rehab for, like he said, about 5-6 months or whatever, he came home. He was able to get around. Of course, he still needed some help. But the problem was he was getting better physically, but mentally,
I wasn't.
He still had the fear of being on oxygen for so long, not being able to catch your breath, thinking that he would wake up and not be able to breathe. So mentally, he was having a lot of problems, which caused him a lot of anxiety. So that was one of the concerns that he had that was placing a lot of restrictions on him, even the ability to go out. I mean, when I went to work, he would be so afraid to stay in the house alone. So we did reach out. And that was one of those moments that you asked about earlier, when he didn't want to go to get to see a psychologist.
Psychiatrist, yes.
And he felt that he was resistant. He could do it on his own. But that was one of the best things that we could have done. We reached out to the University of Maryland. They gave us the name of a great psychologist who gave him the tools that he needed to eliminate that fear. And now he's, the fear, the mental and the physical together, caused him to recover so much better and so much faster. And now it's like, he's okay.
Earl, let's talk about some of your post-transplant regimens. Let's talk about meds first. I understand you were taking immunosuppressants, tacrolimus, prednisone, antifungal, antiviral, ACE inhibitors for high blood pressure, diuretics to remove excess fluid, and acid to prevent acid reflux and ulcers. How many meds in all were you taking?
Well, from the first, after I came home when I got home after the transplant, I was on tons of medicines. I was like tacrolimus, I was like maybe 15 in the morning, maybe 10 milligrams at night. and then they put me on sirolimus, which was maybe 1 milligram to 1 time a day. Then I was on prednisone for about 40 to 50 milligrams a day, and and other medicine, like I take like 750 milligrams of this antiviral medicine and 500 milligrams of this medicine twice a day. And that was when I first came home. But now, during the time that I've been home in the almost 10 years in May, I'm hardly taking any now. It done worked so well that now I'm down to like maybe 1 milligram of textilimates and 1.5 milligram of sirolimus, 10 milligrams of prednisone, and rest is vitamins. So I came from a long way from tons of medicine to hardly
Wow,
any.
big difference.
Yes, it
I,
was.
I understand that for a while you were undergoing monthly bronchoscopies.
Yes, that was done by Dr. Unkle to keep my lungs open and to check on my lungs, and that helped too. Because when he found something wrong, he would like scope it out, or scope it, or maybe take a piece of my lungs and send it out for testing to see where else and come back clear, or if it doesn't, what kind of medicine he can put me on. And he made an appointment with me, just kept up with my lungs every month. And then eventually I went down to 3 months. And now I haven't had a bronchoscopy in, I say, maybe 5 years now.
Wow.
Lungs, yeah. But I was getting plenty of them before then. A whole lot of them.
Okay. Miss Sherri, I understand that Earl's on a special nutrition, a special diet, exercise. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Well, he, been told to exercise. He walks every day. Special diet? No, he's not on a special diet. He just has to, of course, eat healthy.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the things, Earl, that you've been doing to get your story out there. Because I know that you're very active in sharing your story. You wrote a book, Unkle Earl, a double lung, double transplant recipient story of survival. Why did you write this book?
Well, I wrote the book to try to educate and let other people know that transplant can save your life, and not to be scared of it. If you need it, go for it, because I was fearful and I was blessed and lucky to get one. But the longer you wait, the less chance that you might have of getting one. And so that's what my book was about, not just for lungs, but for, I guess, for heart, kidneys, whatever, liver. And just to let you know, if you need it, don't hesitate, because I was blessed, because after 2 months, I wouldn't even have been strong enough to get these lungs. But I was blessed enough to get them. But some people might not be that lucky if they wait too long. So that's why my book is just to educate others about transplantation, and that, maybe you want to learn about it, or if you don't know somebody who could get one, or whatever, or you just want to read up about it. So that's why I wrote the book, to educate most people about it. And that's why it's
Okay.
a book, I believe.
I read a note that you wrote that it says the purpose in writing your book in part was a message to Black and brown men never to give up. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, it's just to let them know that not to give up, because they always could be a light at the end of this tunnel for you. Not to give up, and not to say, I don't want it, or anything like that. Go for it if you need it. And that's what I'm telling, because I know most Black men, like kidneys and liver and stuff like that, they need a transplant because of the pressure of the blood pressure might hurt it. So I just tell them, go for it and don't be scared. That's the point. And that's why I was trying to get it out, to let everybody know, about transportation, whether you need it or whether you don't need it, or if you know somebody who do need one, to let them know that get it if you can get it. Don't wait, because it might be too late.
I didn't realize until I read your book, this disease, BOOP, it affects 5 to 10 million people in the United States. Even though it's a rare disease, it affects a lot of people.
Yes, but now they beginning to study it and know more about it. But when I had it, they probably know a little bit about it, but they didn't know what they know about it now. And I believe if they did, I wouldn't been just be putting them back to me. I would know that a steroid sometimes could take care of this. But apparently I was too late for them to notice that. And when they started giving me the steroids, my tissue was just scarred and I just needed lungs that there was no turning back then.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, in most cases, BOOP can be, cured with prednisone.
Yes.
But in Earl's case, they labeled it as idiopathic. They don't know his just wasn't able to be cured with prednisone. He was put on high doses of it, but it did not work, and which caused his lung tissues to become scarred, resulting in him having to have a double lung transplant.
Earl, I was looking at your website, which the link is currently scrolling across the screen, uncleearl.com. And I understand that you sell sports cards and comic books there. And there's also a video on your website about your experiences with your transplant. And that's where they can go to buy the book too, correct?
Yes.
uncleearl.com.
That's it. Yes.
Uncle
And
Earl with a K.
Uncle Earl with a K, right?
Earl
Right.
Yeah.
And I understand that the two of you have done a number of podcasts and videos. I think I found about a half a dozen to a dozen YouTube videos, the links to the videos, and all of those links, by the way, the links to the website are all in the comments to the broadcast that are pinned at the top of my page. So, and currently scrolling across your screen. You guys mentioned to me that you attended the transplant games of 2024. What was that like?
That was great to be down there and around, because then again, to be around other people who had transplants and how they was getting around and coming to me and wanting to know about it and wanting to read my book. And some people even came by and said they had a family member that would get ready to get a transplant, but they didn't know nothing about it. And so they bought the book from me, and the next day they said that they were interested in this. It's inspired her person, whoever it was, to get the transplant, that they were going to go for it. And so I figured my book helped a lot of people who, at that transplant game, who were thinking about getting one or who had somebody who needed one. Now they know all about it, and that's why I'm glad I educated them about it.
Yeah, some people
And
that
I want to show folks the book again. This is my copy. Come on,
Yeah.
Jim, you can get it in the screen. Uncle Earl was kind enough to sign it for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Sherri. I'm sorry.
No. And some people who had transplants, they were very interested, like with the medication. How long was he on the high doses of medication and where he's at now. Yeah. So he was there to really, the transplant games were very great. That, like he said, to connect with so many people. But then also, as Earl was there to show, how well he's doing now. Because some people can really see that you get better, and you can continue to live and thrive, after transplantation.
Okay. And just so people can see, hang on 1 minute. There's the website, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
That's a picture of the website? Okay. So if you find that, you're in the right place, my friends. Sherri, let's talk a little bit about the not-for-profit. And I have a picture of that too. This is your not-for-profit, Begin Again. Can you give us some idea what that is all about?
Yes. Started the not-for-profit, begin anew in 2022 with the mission. Our mission is to educate, motivate, and advocate, because once you know better, you do better. You want to become motivated, and then you can be a better advocate for yourself, whether it's in education, um, workplace, or in health. So we provide traditional and non-traditional education uh, to eliminate many of the social and health disparities, such as health, substance abuse, that result in substance abuse, unemployment, diseases, and inequities in healthcare. And we've been out there with our boots on the ground. In 2023, we had our third annual World AIDS Day community celebration at the brand new University of Maryland Biopark. And we work with the Baltimore City Health Department, the Maryland State Health Department, and various other partners with the goal of eradicating HIV by 2030. And again, as you stated, we were able to go to Alabama, Birmingham, with Earl in July for the USA Transplant Games. And Begin Anew did have a table there, and we gave out information and resources.
Okay. My notes are telling me that the Begin a new not-for-profit is specifically there to advocate for minority organ donation, and that you provide traditional and non-traditional education to eliminate social and health disparities that exist in the underprivileged and marginalized communities. Are those fair statements for me to make?
Well, we do provide information to all communities, minority, marginalized, underprivileged, to get the education. Like Earl stated, when he was told he had to have a double lung transplant, we knew of no one who had one before.
True.
So when we were able to connect with the University of Maryland support group and get information and resources, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to, put the information out there where we could share it, to provide more resources and education so people could take better care of themselves. As you said, the data shows that it's over 100,000 people that are on the organ transplant list, with 60% of those being minorities. And a lot of Black African Americans, suffer from, it's sad to say, high blood pressure, diseases, and heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, which may not allow them to become, to obtain a transplant or become a donor. So therefore, we want to provide as much education as we can, to eliminate even the stigmas that may be associated with obtaining an organ, with donating an organ, just to get more information out there. But it's to provide awareness, education for not just minorities, but minorities definitely, because we need to get the information out there. And as I talked about before, when Earl went through the process of where he had to seek mental help, a lot of, especially Black men, don't want to go talk to a psychiatrist or psychologist. But just to let you know that it's okay, that these things, it's okay to be scared. But it's education and there's resources out there. And if we can't do it, we can link you to somebody else that can help you to get the support that you need.
Okay, that's great.
And also,
that's great. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Miss Sherri, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, to begin a new website, if you look at the website, today I was looking at maybe having some technical difficulties, but I think you had the link up there, and it will show some of the things that we've been doing since 2022. Again, with our partners, if you're out there and you would like to be a partner, please reach out. And if you can help us to continue to spread our mission of educating, motivating, and advocating, please hit that donate button. It's no gift that's too small or too large, and we really appreciate your support.
All right, and then once again, I just want to show everybody the website for Earl's book, his sports cards, his comic books. If you're interested in things like that, this is the place to go. UnkleEarl.com, Uncle with a K. Don't forget the K. So, all right. Let me ask you this, Earl. if you had a chance to speak to your donor family, what would you say to them?
Well, I would first of all I would thank them for having the son that that was on the donor list for lungs or whatever he was on for it to let him know that his lungs had helped save a life to save my life. And I want to let him know that lungs didn't go to waste or whatever other organs he had, that the lungs that I got from him, I'm thankful for it, and I'm gonna live my best life with him. So long as I'm living, I would tell her that your son or your husband, whoever he was, that he's alive too because I got his lungs and I'm enjoying them the best of my life. I'm doing traveling and walking, and I couldn't do that at all. So I would tell him I'm thankful for for my donor, and his family for being on that list.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, we're in the home stretch here, folks.
Okay.
This is a tradition in my broadcast. Earl, do you have any final statements that you wish to make to our audience tonight before we conclude the broadcast?
Yes, Mom. To always keep the faith, and if you have to go through what I went through or any other kind of transplant, whatever, no matter what it is, don't hesitate. Help yourself and go through it because the longer you wait, the worse it will get. And I learned that by me waiting so long for it because like I said before, I was scared, and that almost cost me my life. So I try to let others know that, hey, get it if you need it. Don't be afraid of it because it can save your life. Like I said, look at me. I had double lungs and be 10 years in May. So it can save your life and it can get you back to your normal stuff that you used to do.
Okay. Sherri, do you have any final statement that you wish to make before we conclude our broadcast tonight?
Yes, like Earl said, it's very important to take care of your physical
Mm-hmm.
and your mental health. And don't be afraid to seek help, support, and resources to help you, no matter what you're going through. And caregivers, like I was, when Earl went through it, when you're providing that support and help to your loved one, friend, or whoever, make sure that you take time to take care of yourself also.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, this was such a terrific broadcast. I've got to admit to you guys that before Gene wrote to me, I had no idea that they did double lung transplants. So I had to kind of take a little bit of a crash course. But um, your book was such a great guidepost for learning about all of this. And I just hope I asked good questions tonight because I think we got out a lot of great information. And I promise you, I'm going to share the replay of this broadcast to all 100 of my Facebook groups. And then I have another 100 groups or so that I have permission to share my broadcast. So we'll get it out there. And as you know, your Uncle Jim is kind of a social media freak. So I'll be putting it on all my platforms. I'm going to try to get it on TikTok before they close down, if they close down, to make sure everybody gets an opportunity to see it. And I really believe tonight that we raised some awareness about minority organ donation, and we certainly raised some awareness about lung transplants and about the tremendous courage both of you showed. And I just want to say I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Uncle Jim. We
You.
appreciate you.
Mhm.
And thanks, Gene, for reaching
Yep.
out. And we really appreciate you taking the time to allow us to spread this education and information on your network. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And I
Go
hope
ahead, Earl.
hope this help others others who thinking about, you know,
We may need it.
who may need it.
Yeah.
You know, so
Well, we try. We try real hard, Uncle Earl. It was great talking to you guys. I have a few things I have to button up with my audience, like who's going to be on next week, that kind of stuff. I've kept you guys for almost an hour. You're free to go if you wish to leave. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and educating all of us about double lung transplants and minority organ donation. And geez, what a terrific job you guys have done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that is our show for tonight. And
Thank you.
we thank you very much for watching. Gosh, what am I doing next week? Got to scroll back down. I'm sorry. So next week, we're talking with our friend Gary Sinclair. That'll be a broadcast on April 11th. He is a kidney transplant recipient. He's an author and an inspirational speaker. So it should be an interesting broadcast. I thank you for tuning in, and I will see everybody again next week. And boy, what a terrific job that Uncle Earl and his wife Sherri did tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the broadcast, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for watching.